Hi, I'm Kimberly Smathers with ATN, and I'm so excited to be here today with Luke Graner from Be Rhythmic. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's fantastic. Well, can you tell us a little bit about Be Rhythmic? I see a drum sitting here, which I hope we get to see in a moment. So we know it involves drums.
Yeah, we always like to show up with a djembe, at least one. If we had 50, that would be great. We could have a 50% drum circle, but
I hope that that's 2024's conference activity.
We'll have to coordinate that locally. Be Rhythmic started off, sort of the roots of Be Rhythmic come from the drum circle. Mm-hmm. And so I just had amazing experiences as a college kid and a young dad doing various kinds of drum circles, music festivals, kids music programs, at little local festivals out in North Dakota. And the power of the drum circle and the feeling of that sort of unified experience just was really special to me. So I wanted to try to sort of create something that felt like that, but that could be a little more easily approachable or, just something that would be a little simpler and easier to do. It's, not the easiest thing to coordinate a drum circle and have that type of experience, but I knew there was something about the group dynamic and the rhythm and the music that was very special. So, I started off just working with kids and doing drum circles and music classes. And then as I started to train in the neurosequential model and sort of spend a lot of time around Dr. Perry and the Neurosequential Network, Pete Folks, and my dad being, part of that as the enemy on the enemy side of things, I started to see now I'm starting to understand developmentally why it means so much to us as humans. And then you look at history and it's like, okay, I knew it felt like I was tapping into something natural and ancient, but it's actually totally legit.
Yeah.
Science tells us why. And that was amazing. And so then I was like, okay, now I want to try to create something that is easy to use for everyone. It doesn't require being a musical person or having musical talent. And that's where I just kind of started to get into the idea of rhythm as the core, the sort of center of everything.
Yeah.
And so I was, I explored all kinds of different rhythmic practice, meditation, yoga, loved doing that kind of stuff. But I was always drawn back to the music and drumming. And so Be Rhythmic kind of came out of the idea of wanting to create patterns and songs and games and activities that could be done with adults, with kids, that would just be, regulating, but enjoyable. And so I kind of did a lot of drumming and desk drumming and body drumming, and was focused a lot on patterns and what I thought would be developmentally healthy or regulating patterns. And all the while just continuing to try to simplify things for people.
Yeah.
And so eventually I got to the point of thinking I need the breath needs to be a part of this. It can't just be drumming or patterns, I really have found so much benefit from focused breath practice, whether it be meditation or yoga or just, patterned breathing. And so I came up with the idea of breathing with the beat, which, that's some brilliant new thing. Just listen to the beat, figure it out, breathe in and out with the beat. Take your heartbeat, breathe in and out with your heartbeat.
When you mentioned Dr. Perry's neurosequential model, and I know a lot of folks listening probably have some familiarity with Dr. Perry's work, but maybe for those who don't, can you kind of help make that connection between that sense of rhythm, breathing, and kind of why you would be here at a conference focused on trauma? Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. The upside down triangle diagram that Dr. Perry has created as a way for everybody to sort of really get that simple visual model, but it, means so much. I really was just fascinated by the idea of we can't get to our relational part of our brain, to our cognitive part of our brain, unless we take care of the bottom part of the brain. And so that's where I saw rhythm and music and repetitive practice being so effective at meeting people and kids like at that low part of the brain where they have to be settled. I call it taking care of the animal. Like you have to take care of the animal if you want to be human. And so I've kind of thought, okay, if I can provide tools and ideas and practices that are very simple that can sort of bring everyone together in a variety of settings, whether it be one-on-one or in a classroom or in a music experience, that if we can serve the low brain, serve that animal, like we'll be able to just get to those more human parts and make it easier to form relationships. So just taking that into consideration, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the guy that focuses on that like low brain. Like let's and what can we do? Well, you start to listen to the experts that talk about the heartbeat, the mother's heartbeat, in utero experiences, early experiences, padding, all those rhythmic things that are a part of our life ever since we come into existence. I'm like, okay, so let's tap into that. And so the breath and the heartbeat, and that just kind of is the foundation of our rhythmic bodies. And so I kind of had this idea like, okay, we're not all musically gifted, but we all can be rhythmic because we all are rhythmic.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, and I love that distinction. I mean, you're not saying be musical. That may or may not be what calls to you, but I think we've all swayed or rocked or been rocked or, experienced the power of rhythm.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think it's pretty universal that music is connecting. And that's the other thing is that when we listen to music or we play music or we do things that are rhythmic, working out, all that kind of stuff, we really open ourselves up to connect with people in that way. And when we're in rhythm together, that can really deepen the connection. And that's what I see when I come and teach at these types of places where, afterwards someone will come up and share a story with me about, an indigenous experience they have in Alaska. Like I talked to a couple of gals today. It was like amazing to hear. They show me dances that they were doing and they had experienced trauma in their community. And so and what did they do? They didn't get in a circle and talk about it. They danced. They did a traditional dance as a way to start that healing.
Well, it seems to transcend language. I mean, Are there any, for folks who are interested in kind of introducing more rhythm into their daily life, they can call you, of course, but are there certain beats, certain patterns, or things that you would kind of recommend people play with if they're looking to explore that a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. I start with the heartbeat, so just counting your heartbeats and breathing with the counting. So if you take your pulse and you count 4 heartbeats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I establish that rhythm, then I can breathe to that rhythm. So I'm breathing to my own rhythm. Breathe in, 3, breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, breathe out, 4. So that's one that's always available. Putting your feet on the beat and breathing with your steps is another very easy way. So I mean, anywhere you're walking, or if you decide to go for a walk, I often listen to music and walk to the music, to the beat of the music, and breathe with that beat. That's another.
I'm imagining the genre might depend on where we get that heart rate up to. Or
yeah, and the speed of the music, some music is like, okay, you're gonna walk slow and then you're gonna jog. You're gonna walk slow and then you're gonna jog, and then sometimes it's perfectly paced for walking. But I mean, that's something I do every day as I walk and breathe with my steps. So that's like a personal practice that I found very beneficial. And the other thing that, I mean, the drumming and finding people to drum with is such a special way to experience the power of rhythm, but also just like sharing music with others and listening to music together, learning about what people like and what people listen to, what they listened to when they were young. That sharing of music can transcend generations and bring anybody together. Like what kind of music do you like to listen to? I'm sure it
Well,
depends on the day. And like, all that, but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's a go-to for you?
Well, I grew up listening to metal and still enjoy a lot of that and a lot more EDM music these days, but
Oh.
I'm pretty open-minded.
Awesome. Yeah.
What about you? I heard about those festivals early on.
Early on. Yeah, I was in a band in high school and in college. So I was into rock and alternative music, and then got in a little bit into the jam band music festival kind of scene, which is where I was introduced to some of like the bigger, more wild drum circles and things like that, which is just so much fun. I just had a spectacular time. My own music that I write and compose would, probably be in the singer-songwriter sort of reggae influenced sort of world like that. I like dance music as well. But I kind of have I would say my I get into a pretty good genre of sort of indie, pop and alternative hip hop and stuff like that. My kids are super into hip hop, so I try to like listen to as much of what they're listening to as I can, get an idea what they're listening to, give them a little feedback on maybe what I think they could leave off the playlist. But just being open to listening to what kids are listening to, I think, is a great way to establish, relationships and trust.
Oh, for sure.
And when you listen to music, if you put into practice the idea of rhythmic breathing or rhythmic walking, and you learn how to actively listen to music and find the beats that are in the music, I call it finding the pulse.
Yeah.
Just like you do with yourself. Like, what's the pulse of this music? Okay, how can I breathe and move to this? And then obviously dancing is great. Or chanting and speaking and singing, that makes us breathe. So that's another great way to do it. So
I hadn't thought about that way, but that makes sense. Yeah.
So we do things like feet on the beat, feet on the beat, feet on the, just repeating.
And is that some of what you might use in classrooms or with kids, something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So little chants, little patterns, fun, easy things, call and response, echoing, that kind of like, that gets into like a little more of like the relational. You can learn about kids by asking them to like, lead an echo game, stuff like that. I mean, it's all around us. So I really just kind of try to simplify it as much as possible and not try to get too caught up in the music of it. Because being a longtime musician, I used to get a little too caught up in that idea of like, creating the perfect pattern that crosses the midline and has stacks and layers, and that's super cool. But also, what's really special sometimes is just being able to count to 8 and breathe in and out.
Well, that seems like the power. It can be as complicated or as simple as you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Before we close up, anything else you'd like to share with folks? Any takeaways you'd love for people to walk away with?
I think the number one thing is just share the music that you love with others, and listen to the music that others would want to play for you. I think that's kind of like where it starts, and also just it's really fun, making playlists and sharing music. So other than that, just do what you can to be rhythmic, I guess.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You bet.